Hello everyone, I am here with Pavel Fedotov for the first time. He's the creator of the Block Explorer for EVM. It's an Optimism Fractal interview, and I hope you will enjoy it. How are you, Pavel? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about like the Optimism, the EVM Explorer, and like my company, which is like DSPYT, and yeah, I usually pronounce it as like dispute.
Before to go into the Block Explorer, I want to let you introduce yourself. Long story, short story, how you came to the Web3 and how you decided to create this EVM Block Explorer.
I've graduated in like 2019, right? Young, so like I'm relatively, I think, young. But for the space of like Web3, I think like I've spent like a couple of years, which is usually more than like the average, right? And the problem like that pushed me into the Web3 space is that like I'm from a country outside of like USA, outside of the like Eurozone, right? So it's very difficult to like to transfer money out. It's very difficult to interact with currencies, and the most difficult problem is like obtaining like a work permit, right? Getting a job and all of these things, especially when you're like relatively just like starting like within your professional field, right? And it's also very difficult to like to figure out what are you actually like good at. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds so obvious for some of us that are already here so long years into the professional things. We forget sometimes how that could be difficult today to embrace all what is for us maybe so obvious. So thank you to remind us those facts. Why have you decided to create this Block Explorer?
So I think like there are very different types of explorer on different chains, right? So like in general, just like an explorer, it's very expensive to run. It's very expensive to host. And for example, on Ethereum, it would cost like I think like maybe like 10,000 like dollars to run like an actual indexer, and that's probably like a very cheap one. So it would cost probably like double or triple that sum, right? And for most of the users, it's very difficult to start with an indexer because of this, right? So that's why we have Etherscan, which is the largest like explorer, right? Indexer explorer, but they are like a monopoly in the space, right? So they capture like all of the funds that go into indexers, and their like web interface is relatively like they've just like updated it like a couple months ago with like different plugins, different like interface additions, like colorings, whatever. But I've started this project before like Etherscan started to update their interface. Yeah. And I'm just building like a very different interface for like blockchain data. Yeah, I would like characterize it that way. Yeah. And like different chains have different priorities. So, for example, for Optimism, they're very interested into promoting the like the sectors that require like additional attention, right? They have like these missions intense where they're like, okay, we need to pick like the best projects and fund them. And I'm trying to help the Optimus Foundation like with this tool. If we get like some like boost from the foundation, like some acknowledgement, right, some like small funding from them, it would mean a lot. I would spend a lot more like time into this. People would actually provide more feedback, so like it would actually like spiral into like something positive in the
Yeah,
end.
totally. We are here to do a snowball, you know. We have a lot of applications running by everyone into Optimism Fractal. Shout out to Optimism Fractal, Dan Sinjoy, and all the Web3 builders that are there. And they are creating their apps. And what we want, indeed, it's to have a good cohesive cohesion with all those apps, not silo. everyone is doing his thing. It's great, but at a point we should connect. And what's better to do good marketing between us for those apps, and that's why we are here today.
This is a landing page, right, for EVM Smart Contract Explorer, where you can discover and track EVM smart contract data. So here you enter your contract address for Ethereum, Optimism Base, and other networks, right? You just press submit button and it transfers to a contract, right? So we also have pre-populated pages such as like Aave, Aerodrome, Compound, ENS, domains, Uniswap, and ERC20s, right? We agreed to showcase the optimism, right? So we enter the OP here. We can also choose the chain and follow the link. So here's the OP governance token, OP symbol, ERC20, the type of the token, the amount of holders, which we fetch from BlockScout API. Here's the price from BlockScout API for one OP token. Here's also a price quote from Uniswap. The pool, we choose the pool with the highest amount of liquidity. And the highest amount of liquidity is at 0.3% fee. We also have 24-hour volume and yeah, a circulated market cap. Yeah, we can also copy this data, right, like this, and post it somewhere like on social media with a picture, for example, right? We also have the amount of transactions in this for this governance OP token. We have the amount of token transfers. We have the average gas per transaction, and we have the total gas usage. Here are the 50 latest transactions for this contract, right? We can follow the transaction types with the colorings, right? We also fetch the price per transaction. We also fetch all the transactions, even if they're out of gas, which is like very important for the quality of data. So we can also click on the transaction hash, right? So here is the transaction. This is a legacy transaction. This is the block. This is the time stamp. This is the address it's from. This is a receiver, which is a governance token, right? So here's a fee. Fee is very small, which is literally like $0, right? We can also see the interaction with the smart contracts, yeah, in detail.
Can we search by transaction hash into this Explorer, or it is only per smart contract address?
Absolutely, but it's like it takes more time, right? And just like to learn how to do this, because you just need to edit that
the URL. The URL, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, like the URL, and I think it's like it's much easier, right? You just like enter the transaction here, and like here it is, right? And you can also use this like the results as a developer. So you just send like requests, and you obtain like the information. Yeah.
What is the real value added here with this Explorer indeed?
So from my perspective, the advantage of this web interface is that we aggregate all of the important contracts in one interface, right? So for example, when I went to Optimism or like Base Etherscan, right, there's just like limited amounts of charts, and the data is very, very scattered, right? You cannot really see what's going on with the chain in general, right? They're just like, here's the data, please search it for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And like it's very, very difficult to aggregate everything. So you have to just basically create folders on your browser, right? And just like swipe it that folder every single contract, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And most likely the contracts will not be correct, right? Because you've done it just by yourself, right? And here I'm actually trying to fix this by creating a registry with like the contracts, which are like fetched directly from, like I've manually entered them from the Aave docs, right? For example.
Okay. Okay.
And the same thing for Aerodrome, right? And also for like compounds. And the most difficult part that I've noticed is that the addresses, right, they disappear from the docs. And
Hmm.
it's very difficult to go back in time to figure out what were the actual contract addresses for the protocol. And I'm trying to fix that as well with this project. Yeah. So for example, I've used as the starting point for this project contractor like web interface that was like dated maybe like 4 or 5 years ago to when this whole blockchain thing started, right? And Compound had like they had different types of contracts, right? And I've used those addresses to figure out like what are they, right? Just from like a starting point from like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not sure,
Hmm.
maybe like 3 years ago. I'm just like
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
not really sure. Like I have to browse it, to Google it, right? And on the docs, for example, CDI has just like one contract, right? But here I have two, right? Because I've used actually the one from the first version of Compound Finance page on Contractor, right? It also has like three versions of like paper interest rate model V2, and like yeah. And
Hmm.
for some reason, protocols they just forget about them. They don't write anything about them. They have no sort of no acknowledgement of like we've done this, we deployed this contract. Maybe because of
Oh.
the legal reasons, maybe because of something else. I'm not sure. So like for me, it's very, very interesting why these contracts are no longer kind of. I've noticed that there are a lot of like ERC20 tokens, right? And I cannot like possibly index all of them, but I've done like the 69s.
Okay. So we can contribute to this project because you should not be alone. Huh? We can contribute to this registry like a DAO
Yeah, yeah,
or something. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and like the link to like GitHub repository just like below the like in the footer, right? You
Hmm.
just like press the GitHub page, right?
Voilà.
And here it is. And like I'll definitely have to edit this, right? Because I've just spent like a lot of time on just figuring it out how to organize things, how it works. But like here's like a file where all this data is in like raw format. So
Voilà.
if you're just like very, very malicious and you don't want to contribute, like you can just copy paste all of this.
Yeah, sure. But that's great. It's open source. So, as always, we can contribute and let's grow the registry and track those different type of addresses. But not all blockchain presented here are changing their addresses. I think you were on Compound.
Let's say they had like a first version of Compound, right? And I'm
Voilà.
just curious, like, what are the basics of Compound protocol? Because I want to learn it, I want to help the project, for example, or maybe I want to like to copy paste their code because it's open source. Like, I'm not
Okay.
sure, right? So I'm
Okay.
just trying to aggregate everything in one place. So just like it's also a very good starting point for developers to understand how the protocol works. Because, for example, Aave all of the Aave forks were hacked, right? All of the Aave forks were hacked, and here is the reason for it. They just have too many contracts, and
Voilà.
if you change like a small thing, like that's it, you might have like
Mhm. Okay. And about
yeah,
optimism,
disadvantage.
what you think about optimism, the L2, the blockchain? If you want to show us a little bit OP, is it more stable with their evolution, or you think it's what do you think?
So I think, to be honest, OP governance has like probably the best like docs for like with addresses, right? So if we just go to this address, we can literally see all the contracts, right?
Yeah.
But like not all of the contracts have some history of transactions, so it's like it's also very difficult to figure out. And Etherscan like has too much traffic, for example, right? It has too many kind of also malicious users, like yeah, and like the sometimes it's down, right? But here, like I've just managed to aggregate it very kind of easily for developers. So for example, we have like a certain coloring for a blue, like a blue type transaction, right? And if you just use the application, you'll like easily figure out what this contract is actually doing, right? Because on
Okay.
Etherscan, everything like the same color, like you might as well just like enter the raw registry of like of
Yeah.
projects that are like
Yeah.
yeah.
What about
And here,
base? Base, it's also well documented, like Optimism, you will say.
yeah. And it's because of the Block Scout API, right? I'm just trying to figure out other APIs, configure them to this interface. Like I might like if I get like some funding, I might as well just start in the indexer as well, like a small, like a very small one, or
Hmm.
just like buy the subscription to like an RPC, right? But like it's also like relatively expensive.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't have like a database, right, to store the data for registry because, well, I've just like been figuring out what are actually the important parts of the blockchain, right? For example, like optimism and base, right? And like the most important projects, I've went over like the data for where the transactions are coming from, like the yeah and like there are like multiple free resources such as like Misari crypto, like analytics, right? And like token terminal and other things where you figure out like where the money is coming from, where is the volume, and all those like type of things. And unfortunately, there's also like no API to like free API to just to just provide developers or users the relative like volume where
Hmm.
it's coming from on the chain on a block like in a day.
Mm.
It's not there yet. So I think I'm hopefully if other projects will not capture this, like I'll figure out how to design the graphs, the pages, load like registries very fast from like a database, right? But right now the database is just hosted on GitHub within this file. I've manually like pasted the contract there. We're using Next.js to display the pages to just then to like statically load them, but like some of the pages is not optimized yet. We also like I've connected like Rainbow configuration, Rainbow wallets, which we can also like add here to interact with contracts, right? But from my perspective, it would spook the users, and yeah, we don't have unfortunately like the confidence of users to just like here it is, please sign in and interact with the contract. Yeah, but like that's definitely in the roadmap, and I've configured it that way. Yeah, we can easily integrate like in the upper corner, like connect your wallet button and interact with the contracts, which
Okay.
are open source. Yeah.
Okay. So currently you are using Block Scout API and
Mhm. And then
Vum
yeah,
library to empower user to dive deep into the transaction. It's what you are using indeed.
yeah, I've used like VM. VM, yeah, to fetch some data, which sometimes goes down on BlockScout, or which is
Ah,
sometimes not available on BlockScout. And yeah,
okay, so you switch from BlockScout API to Vim, depending on maybe sometimes the workload is going down, and you have to like doing a load balancer to go from one to the other. That's that.
yeah. To be honest, I was very scared. Like before, like I applied to Optimism, like retro grant for like governance, right? Because Optimism was just not working on BlockScout, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I'll be able to figure out with like VM and other tools, but like thankfully it worked. Works, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You want to come to Optimism RetroPGF with for the governance, you say, with something that is very well
I'll use
packaged.
this video. I'll use this video as a pitch to get some money.
Yeah, nice to hear that. Thank you very much. You want to come with something very well crafted before to say to the Optimism Retro PGF, I have the solution for governance with EVM Explorer, and you come with Block Scout API that could be maybe not very well perceived. So you want to do something great. So we appreciate that. And that's need time. Are you basically the sole developer of that, or are you a little group?
So I've used like the very old code from Refactor, which like I think people that like developed things on Ethereum like for a very long time, like they know this project, right? And I've literally used the same interface for like the cards from the refactor to just like here, like I've used the code. I've tried to enhance it, right? But like I had to like scrape everything else other than this like these cards. Yeah, and like before I've started working on this project, Block Scout was not available on like they didn't get like the funding that they like raised. There were like little to no projects in just querying the data from blockchain, aggregating it, right? And I've instead of like creating new data sets, I've decided to update like the available like contract addresses, transactions, like into like small registries, which is like aggregated into like one registry, right? Which is I think could be useful for like regulators, right? To be like, okay, like here it is, like here is the foundation, and here is the what's foundation is actually responsible for. This is a transaction where you actually see that you know they deploy this contract, like this contract deploy this contract. So like, how can you deny that like you're responsible for it, right?
At the time of this interview, there is some applications going on RetroPGF 6 with Optimism. And can you maybe explain us what is your experience?
Absolutely. So I've got some funding from like Retro PGF 3 with like my decentralized social media adventure, building like NFTs with comments and yeah, things of that nature. Yeah, so I'm very kind of proud of that achievement, right? So, and I've continued developing like this EVM Explorer, and now like in the Retro PGF 5, which is like for governance, there are like a lot more applications for users to actually to interact with addresses, to see what are the like attestations of those addresses are, who are the issuers of those attestations. So it's like something similar to university degree. So like you've gone, like you visited this university, right? You've graduated from it. So like you can contact them, and the university can be like, okay, like this person actually graduated, right? And like here it is. Here's like your certificate. That's the same thing which is being developed on blockchain right now as well. Yeah.
We are in Optimism Fractal special interview today, and my goal with those videos is to contact the Web3 builders. You were coming naturally to me. I was like very wondered why, and now I understand why, because that's a fantastic project that you are doing. I think we understand why you do this. Why, when there is already some block explorer, but not of the same level, we have to say, not with the same granularity. Here we have some granularity, very interesting on the data, on the smart contract data, and all this registry that you are doing. And we want to see that growing for sure. Let's grow. And you are in contact with some people in Optimism Fractal. I think Abraham Becker, you are in contact with him. You have already made some work together, correct?
Yeah, we've there was like a call from Optimism for guest voters to choose the projects for governance RetroPGF 5, right? We've applied and we've got into the program, into like this whole kind of cohort of people who are going to vote on governance projects, right? And we've met with Abraham Deir, yeah, and like other cool people, right? But yeah.
I will share with the audience the Twitter X account of Pavel, and you will see there is some links with Optimism Fractal, the other people there, and that's make like a good story. When you see those videos, you understand why we use this tool, then why we use this app, but we can connect them, and that's Web3. That's the power of that. What is the next challenges, development that you envision, or maybe, yeah, what is the next thing coming indeed?
The next challenges, I think, is like, for example, updating the registry in a more kind of formalized manner. So I've started to learn like MongoDB database. Yeah, and I'm going to probably integrate the MongoDB like within a couple of weeks, maybe even like days, right? I've figured out that the code actually can be helpful to other users. So I've refactored like some elements of the code, for example, for Uniswap, for Block Scout, like utilities from the like the code base, right? And I've placed them in like npm packages, right, which are like easily downloadable, and you can just paste in like the search for npm packages. If you're a developer, you can paste like EVM Explorer and just download like the package that actually powers the project. It's mostly to use the data that you're like fetching from Block Scout, right? So I've had some difficulties with interacting with Block Scout's documents, right? And it's just like, in general, it's very difficult for a developer to start with Web3 projects, right? Because the data is scattered. You're like, how like any of this works, right? And my package, you can just like, I've placed all the APIs endpoints. Here it is, like, just like as in here's a remote controller from like a TV. Just press like a button, and here it is, like the API for Optimism, the API for Base.
Got it.
And yeah, like there's some difficulties with operating with like like there are like 18 numbers for a token, or like 16, and like all of this is very, very difficult. So like I've integrated the support for the token, like parsing the tokens, displaying them on the screen in like in appropriate formats, right? I've integrated like Uniswap fetcher of like the biggest pool, and it outputs the data for like which is like what the pool is actually like has the biggest liquidity, what's the address of it. So for example, I think if I would get like a job in trading, right, or like in quantitative finance, I could probably just use the same library here. Yeah.
So you will create some abstractions to address the different underlying
Problems.
protocols through your protocol, indeed, that will facilitate to read the blockchain.
I'm very, very uncomfortable with applying with this project to like retro grants and it having a right option, right? Because then what if something fails and the guest voters or like the voters are very, very cognizant of that.
Understood. For us with NovaCrypto, we do some mind mapping and we want to mapping out the data, turn that into information, into knowledge, into nice mind map and all. And I was thinking, okay, I will read the blockchain through RPC, some calls with Block Scout API or whatever. Also GraphQL. We have someone, shout out to Vlad, that is into Optimism Fractal, is building a respect game app, and they are deploy on the base mainnet, and they have deploy a GraphQL to interact with the data. That's already a good step. And I was thinking, okay, I could use GraphQL when I am with the fractal text-based app by Vlad. And when I am in a contact with another app, I will use their the Block Scout API or whatever. But now you coming with the EVMExplorer.com, and if you create this nice abstraction to read the data, I will say, yeah, baby. I will use that for sure. And I encourage the people watching this to take that very seriously, because we are in Web3. And if we have to approach different readers, like to read a PDF, you use Acrobat Reader. Here we are on Web3. We should use one protocol and we read the blockchains. That sounds so obvious. Why you don't do that? And now we have Pavel here, very foolish and angry to build that. So we should support you very much. And guys, see the video description, all the links. Also join the Optimism Fractal is on the Thursday at 1700 UTC. I hope to see you there, Pavel, one day into the Optimism Fractal, coming and giving up some good news there for your project. And yeah, I think we did the tour. We have not to go too much longer because I love you, but we could continue 2 hours more. But at a point, we should say, okay, we're wrapping up. We respect the time of the people, because that's very scarce resource currently. And you have all the link, guys, into the video description. You have access to the mind map. You will figure out all. You will have access also to an MP3 of today video, giving a great summary of Pavel and NovaCrypto here. And I enjoy to interview you again. But maybe before to wrapping up, have you something else to mention that we don't address and that you want absolutely to communicate here?
Yeah, so we've also qualified for Gitcoin grants, which is an open source funding, like quadratic funding for like infrastructure, developer like tooling as well, like apps and hackathon alumni. So we've qualified for infrastructure, for like Ethereum infrastructure. Yeah, I think it's like with the like NPM libraries developed. Next time we could also like qualify for developer tooling, right? Yeah, but this time we just qualified for infrastructure, and we would be really, really grateful if you just contributed like $1. That's the minimum amount qualified for quadratic funding. Yeah, which comes from like the sponsors such as like Arbitrum and yeah, probably even Ethereum Foundation. I'm not sure.
That will be great. Reminder for the people, we were today with Pavel Fedotov, the creator of EVMExplorer.com. Retain his name, because in a couple of months we will use that more and more. I am convinced with that. He's a great developer, and we will have other interview to showcase your work, Pavel. That was a pleasure. And you know how we're wrapping up this episode? We will say at 3, 2, 1, 0, we will say, go EVM Explorer. We do this. I do the countdown. 3, 2, 1, 0, go.
Oh, go EVM Explorer. What should I say?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yay.
baby. Yeah. See you, Pavel, until next time, and take care. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you.